5 years. That is how long it took before they came back. Not one of them, both of them. Separately, within the same week. Both with the same word. Forgiveness. And for the first time since everything collapsed, I had something to say to them. Not the answer they expected. A test. And neither of them could pass it. Before I tell you what I did, I need you to understand where I was when it happened. I was not living in the wreckage of what they did. I had not spent 5 years consumed by it. I had spent 5 years building something entirely my own, deliberately, methodically, without rage. And when their messages appeared, I did not feel what I expected to feel. I felt precise. I knew exactly what I was going to do. For those who are new here, 5 years ago, my ex-wife Sophia and my former best friend Marcus were discovered to have been draining my family trust fund for nearly 4 years, over $1 million, moved through shell accounts, while they planned to disappear together to another country. The legal case was thorough. The recovery was partial. The marriage and the friendship ended not in an argument but in a federal fraud investigation. By the time they came back, I was 38. Different city, different world. I had restructured the trust with controls that made what happened before structurally impossible. I had built a small consulting firm, just myself and 2 people I had taken 3 years to trust. I was not happy in the performed sense. I was solid. The kind of solid that comes from surviving something and refusing to let it define you. What I knew of their 5 years came in fragments, information that reaches you whether you want it or not. The criminal investigation lingered 2 years before resolving without trial but with a civil judgment that followed Sophia's financial record everywhere. Marcus lost his consulting license. The relationship between them, built entirely on resources that no longer existed, collapsed quietly within 18 months. They did not build the life they had planned. They built nothing. Sophia reached out first. By email, I had not changed the address. The message was 200 words, written carefully. Measured phrasing, no demands, no dramatic language. She said she had spent 5 years thinking about what she had done. She was not asking for anything, she said. She simply needed me to know she was sorry. I read it twice and then closed the laptop. I did not respond for 3 days. Marcus's message came 4 days later. More direct, less careful in its phrasing. He acknowledged what happened without euphemism. Said he had lost everything worth keeping and understood exactly why. Said he was not asking to resume anything, he just wanted to say it directly, he had been wrong, completely, without justification. I deserved better. I read it once. Filed it next to Sophia's. Waited 3 more days before responding to either of them. 3 days of silence before I responded to either of them. I did not talk it through with anyone. I simply sat with the question, what does responding to this actually mean? Not forgiveness, I had not decided anything about that. Not rejection either. Something more deliberate. By day 3 I had my answer. Neither of them would be expecting it. I agreed to meet Sophia at a coffee shop, neutral, public, no history attached to the space. She looked different. Tired in a specific way that 5 years of consequence produces, not dramatic exhaustion, just the ordinary weight of someone living without the things they destroyed. She was 35 and looked exactly that. She thanked me for coming. She did not try to embrace me. She sat across the table and waited. She spoke for about 20 minutes. What she had done. How she had told herself it was justified at the time and watched the justification collapse under what she had actually lost. Not money. Not legal freedom. The ability to trust her own version of herself. She had been in therapy for 3 years. She was not the same person, she said. Then she looked at me and said, I just need you to know I am sorry. Whatever you do with that is yours. Marcus looked older than 39 in a way that made sense. The gray in his hair had advanced. The professional arrogance that once defined him was simply gone. What replaced it was something quieter. He arrived first. He was not on his phone. He stood when I walked in and did not extend his hand, as if he already understood it would not be the right gesture. He did not minimize what he had done. No framing it as a mistaken judgment, no attributing it to circumstances. He described it as a deliberate choice, made repeatedly over 3 years, with full knowledge of the harm. He said he had spent the first 18 months after the collapse unable to understand himself and the last 3 years trying to become someone he could. He said, I am still working on it. That part one believed. I had been thinking, for a while, about writing down what happened. Publishing it. Using real names. I had not decided anything about it. But sitting with these 2 separate conversations, a question formed that I had not planned. Should I publish the story? And then I realized, I did not need to decide alone. I had 2 people right in front of me whose answer might tell me something far more important than whether to publish. I told Sophia, before we said goodbye, that I had been thinking about writing down what happened. The full story. Her name, Marcus's name, the accounts, the fraud, the judgment, all of it, exactly as it occurred. And I asked her, plainly, should I publish it? I watched her face for a moment. Then she answered. She said, does it help you move on? Said it gently, with what seemed like genuine concern. But what she had done, without understanding it, was turn my question back onto me. Made it conditional on whether publishing served my healing. Not about the truth. Not about the story's right to exist. About whether I had a reason she approved of. I said I would think about it. I left knowing exactly what her answer had revealed. I asked Marcus the same question at the end of our meeting. Same phrasing. I had been thinking about writing down what happened. Her name, his name, everything. Should I publish it? I wanted to see what he would do with that. His answer surprised me slightly, but only in its specific form. Not in what it revealed. He said, if you publish it, could you make clear that I have changed? Said it without realizing what it meant. He was asking me, inside what was supposed to be an unconditional apology, to use my story as his rehabilitation. Include a line that softened how people would see him. He was not wrong to want that. But the moment he asked, he turned my story into a negotiation. And you cannot negotiate someone else's account of their own life. The answer that would have changed everything was simple: do whatever is true. Whatever you need. It is your story, not mine, to negotiate. Neither of them said that. Because saying it would have required something very specific, the ability to place my experience above their own comfort, completely and without condition. That is not nothing. It is, in fact, the entire thing. I was not looking for forgiveness to feel better. I was looking to see who they actually were. I sent each of them a short message the next day. Not cold, not angry, just clear. To Sophia, I heard you, I believe the apology is real, and this chapter is closed. To Marcus, I believe you have changed, and this chapter is closed. To both of them, do not contact me again. The door is not locked against you. It simply does not exist anymore. What happened after I sent those messages? Nothing. No drama, no aftermath I had to manage. I made coffee, went back to work, stopped thinking about it by afternoon. That absence, the complete lack of internal aftermath, told me everything about where I had arrived in the 5 years they had spent elsewhere. I was done. Completely and without performance. I want to be precise, I do not believe forgiveness requires reconciliation. Accepting an apology does not mean restoring access. These two things are constantly conflated, as if the only authentic forgiveness is one that reopens the door. What I carry is not bitterness. It is something more durable, accurate information about who these people are and what they are capable of. That information belongs to me permanently. It informs every decision I make from here. Where I am, the trust is intact, governed with controls built from what I learned. The firm has grown quietly. Different city, no memory of any of this attached to the streets here. I am not in a relationship, not out of fear but out of patience. The ground is solid. That is not something I take for granted. Not after what it cost to get here. Here is what I have learned about tests: the answer to a difficult question does not tell you who the person wants to be. It tells you who they still are. Both Sophia and Marcus answered without understanding they were being asked anything. They gave me their actual instinct, unfiltered, unrehearsed. And their actual instinct, even 5 years in therapy later, was to protect themselves first. Every single time. Time alone does not change who someone is. What changes a person is what they build during that time, and whether it is built for themselves or genuinely for those they harmed. 5 years is a long time. It was not, for either of them, enough to stop wanting something in return for their own remorse. If you stayed with me through this entire story, what you just heard is not unusual. The return, the apology, the test they did not know they were taking. This kind of thing happens more than anyone wants to acknowledge. What this channel exists to show you is what it looks like when someone refuses to disappear quietly into what was done to them. If this story hit you, if any part made you stop, do 3 things right now. Hit the like button so this reaches the people who need to hear it. Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss what comes next on this channel. And drop the word karma in the comments right now and tell me, what would you have done in my place? I read every single comment. This is Karma Vault Stories. See you in the next one.